Wonderful. My name is Edie Weinstein, and I'm here in Dublin, Pennsylvania. And my website is www.opti-mystical, mystical.com. And where that came from is that several years ago, a message came through me that said, you're not just an optimist, you're an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. And that's a lot of what this workshop is going to be about, is seeing things through the eyes of possibility rather than limitation. I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a licensed social worker, interfaith minister, journalist, author, workshop facilitator, speaker, PR and marketing person. And I founded a group called Hug Mobsters Armed with Love. We do the free hugs thing. And we started out, in fact, Greg and Susan were two of the original Hug Mobsters. Valentine's Day weekend 2014, I brought a group of folks to 30th Street Station to do a free hugs flash mob. And it just took off from there. And I'll talk more about it during the workshop because that's part of the manifestation process, how that all unfolded as well. So I welcome people to, next time I do one, not sure when, to join us. So, it'll be, I'm also very active on Facebook. So you can connect with me there as well. My email address is bydivinedesign@comcast.net. So I'm thrilled to be here. This is exciting. This is the first time, I'm trying to think, first time that I've done a virtual workshop for Awaken. And I miss the in-person events because of the hugging, it's kind of hard to do, we do virtual hugs, but I appreciate what Greg and Susan have created because this is a way of joining in community because we have so many talented people in this, in this area whose work is positively world changing. So I'm grateful that we have this technology that allows us to connect this way. So this workshop came out of many years of experience of being a conscious creator. The quote that I used in the promotion for this, don't waste time waiting for inspiration. Begin and inspiration will find you. That quote has inspired me because so many times I think, oh yeah, I wish I had the time, the energy, the resources to do this. These days, I'm just saying, yes, bring it on. So this workshop, this hour that we're going to be spending together, will be an opportunity for each of you to put into process and practice whatever it is that you want to create in your lives. So how many of you would say you have a vivid imagination? And for people who I can't see faces of, I'm hoping that you can, wave your hand too. I think, okay, Melissa's hand is raised. Yay. Okay, that's cool. We human beings, I think, are hardwired for imagination. And the things that we imagine aren't always pretty. They aren't always fun. Some of our worst nightmares come out of our imagination, but so too do some of our greatest creations. So today what we're going to do is figure out how to identify what we most want and how to bring that into our lives. So there's a wonderful, and we can jump right in. Actually, I'm going to skip this part for a little bit because this is going to be more interactive later on. But has anybody ever been told that they can't have what they want? That their imagination, what they imagine isn't real, that they can't possibly succeed? Anybody ever have that experience? Yeah, do you want to share what that was?
Yes, when I was going to college, I wanted to work in the film industry. I wanted to that was kind of my dream, but my mother kept telling me that's just a fantasy. You need to learn what, you need to do something practical. And so I never did chase my dream.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how does that feel now that you didn't follow that calling?
It's depressing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can you do any piece of it now? Anything that you were prompted to do?
Right now I'm concentrating on trying to get my life back in order. So I don't think that I can do that right now. That's kind of my dream for maybe the future.
Okay. And the cool thing about getting our lives back in order is that that takes imagination too, right?
Ah,
Because I've come to accept, I'm 63 years old, and I've come to accept after many years of struggling with this idea that if I can conceive it, it means it's possible, that it's out there somewhere. And if somebody else is doing something I want to do, then I know I can move toward that as well. So do folks have any examples of people in their lives that have followed their dreams? And even if you don't know folks personally, think about your favorite authors, your favorite performers, your favorite artists, your favorite musicians, your favorite successful business people, your favorite healers that are out there in the world. Every one of them followed a calling, whether it was something that they heard in their minds, something that they heard about on the radio or television, something that role models did. They all followed a calling. Everything that we do leads us to this moment. It's no accident that the people that are here are here. We were all called to be here in this moment together. And this is not airy-fairy cosmic foo-foo stuff. This is real grounded stuff. So good, you're following your dreams now. We absolutely are. So Diana, Melissa, are your hands raised because you want to speak? And if you are, can you unmute yourself?
oh, sorry, I forgot to put it down after
That's
last
okay.
time.
Oh, okay. Oops, okay. So Diane, do you want to speak? Nope. Oop, disappeared. Okay.
No,
But
that was
does that make sense
before.
to you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
That was from before with the my mom having kind of
Oh,
crushed
yes.
my dream.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So does that make sense to people? Like, can you know that the people that you admire were once upon a time not household names? That they live their lives wishing, hoping, intending for certain things to happen. And then one day, poof, it happened. Okay. A number of years ago, I met Lisa Nichols. Do you know who she is? Lisa was in the movie The Secret. She was the African-American woman that talked about learning to fall in love with herself. She's a coach. She's a very successful motivational speaker. And maybe sometime in the last 8-10 years, she was speaking in New Jersey. And I was one of the people that helped to promote the event. So I was allowed into the VIP event where the people who were high ticket purchasers were able to go. And there were 15 of us in the room with her. This was like 2012. My book had just come out, The Bliss Mistress Guide to Transforming the Ordinary into the Extraordinary had just come out. And I was busting my butt to promote the book. And I said, she said, everybody here can ask me a question and I'll do the best that I can to answer it for you. So I raised my hand and I said, I've earned my chops. I've done all the work. I wrote this book and the proverbial Oprah still hasn't called. How come Oprah hasn't called? And she gets in my face. She says, you want to know the answer? You really want to know the answer? And if you've ever heard Lisa speak, you'll know that that's her style. And I said, sure. And she said, attract, don't pursue. She said, I didn't get famous because Oprah interviewed me. I did the work. I did my service work in the world. I put my work out there without any major expectation of how it was going to turn out. And then Oprah called and Larry King called and I got onto all of these interview shows. And she said, I'd like you to focus on that. So all these years later, it's starting to work. I'm just doing what I do. Just like every one of you does what you do every day. Think about what kind of seeds have been planted in your lives with things that you've started doing that are now coming to fruition. I mean, I know one in particular was somebody in the upper left-hand corner there who had a dream come to reality. Phyllis, you want to share?
Well, it has,
Oh, wait a minute.
You're good. I can hear you.
You're good. Okay.
I wrote a memoir and I self-published with Edie's help. And the Barnes and Noble near me is having a local author spotlight in a couple weeks that I'm going to be there. But
Yay.
I don't know that I have pursued, marketing or getting it out there very much, because I'm not sure how to, but that is happening and I'm very excited about it.
Okay, well, we'll talk. I can do that.
Okay.
And was there a time when you couldn't even have imagined being a published author?
Oh yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I imagine it now.
Okay. Well, this is, yeah. And can you tell them the name of the book so they can buy it?
Yes, it's called When the Devil Laughed, a memoir.
And it's
it's
Phyllis
available
Redmond.
by Phyllis Redmond. And thank you for the plug. And
Of course.
it's available out there, Amazon but other places too. Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I like about you, I mean, I've known you for many years, but I didn't know your backstory. So that book in and of itself, the story in the book is a dream into reality experience, the journey that you're on, because every one of us has a memoir in us, even if we never write it. Think back. I mean, all of us are old enough. We're all adults, except for there's a little munchkin with Jane. But those of us who are adults remember probably being that little one's age and having dreams and desires. So if anybody's willing to share, when you were a little kid, did you have a thought of what you wanted your life to be like as an adult?
All I ever wanted was to be a mommy and a nurse. And I got married to help both of those happen.
Mhm.
And that was all wonderful for the first half of life. And now I realize that I have 3 acts of life. So wrapping up the second one, second act had the biggest hurdles and bumps and lessons and whatnot. And now I'm so excited for Act 3. And I have a pretty good idea what it is. I don't, you've known me long enough. We're creation in motion, but yeah, I'm really excited, and it's been an arduous journey for the most part, with enough love and amazing people to spear me on.
Absolutely. And what anybody else, and I want to add to that afterwards, but does anybody else have any thoughts about what they wanted to do when they grew up?
I always wanted to help inspire people with disabilities.
Oh,
Excellent. So is that what you're doing now, Brian?
Trying to, yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about? I'm sorry.
I was diagnosed with a very rare disease called propionic acidemia, and I had a stroke when I was very young. The short story is my body can only have a certain amount of protein a day. So now I'm trying to help people by providing my own meditation business. I just started about a couple months ago.
Excellent. Okay. And interestingly, when we help others, it helps us too.
Absolutely.
Because healing, the gift, whatever it is we're offering out in the world has to come through us before it can get out there in the world. And every challenge, every heartache, heartbreak, whatever you want to call it, is part of that.
Right.
And, I call it the, if that, then this, if not for that, then this wouldn't have happened. So I don't know if any of us would have wished our heartaches and our hardships on ourselves, but it's helped to build the platform under which we're standing now.
Right.
Yeah. So one of my favorite TED Talks was done by Stacey Abrams. Do you know who she is? Does anybody here know who Stacey
Not
Abrams is?
offhand, no.
Okay, Stacey Abrams had run for governor of Georgia a number of years ago, and she didn't win. But blessedly, she was one of the people that helped turn the tide in the Georgia elections. where Raphael Warnock and my mind just went blank, the other congressman that was elected. She's very active in the voting rights movement. And she is, what's that? I'm sorry. Yeah, Ossoff, right. Thank you. John Ossoff. And she did an amazing TED Talk. So look up Stacey Abrams' TED Talk. And I'm going to ask you to consider these 3 questions. She says these are the most important questions you can ask yourself when you want to create something. First question is, what do you want? It could be an experience, an object, a job, a relationship, better health, whatever it is. The second question is, why do you want it? You know, what's the reason behind wanting this particular thing or experience? And then the third question is, how do you get it? So if you have anything to write on, or if you just want to say it out loud to share, what do you want? Why do you want it? And how do I get it?
What do I want? I think I want to inspire people with disabilities through guided meditations. What was the second one?
Why do you want it? Why do you want to do that?
Because I know how much it has helped me. How do I get it? I think meeting the right people, which I'm already starting to do. So.
And some of those right people might be on this call. You never know.
You never know. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Anybody else want to share? Okay. And even if you don't feel comfortable doing it now, I invite you after you finish the expo, to maybe journal tonight about it. What do I want? Why do I want it? How do I get it? And check out Stacey Abrams' TED Talk. It's probably less than 15 minutes. And I've watched it several times. And the reason that I've watched it several times is that I'm in the process of snagging a TED Talk. So this is something that I've done that has been a long time journey. So when I saw this, I said, okay, what do I want? I want to do a TED Talk. Why do I want to do it? Because I want to share a particular message, which I'll tell you all about in a moment. And that's probably one of the biggest platforms on which I can do that. And how do I get it? I hired a coach. I'm working with an amazing coach named Cesar Cervantes, and he's a comedian, he's a stage performer, he's a motivational speaker, and he is a kick-ass coach. So what the talk is about is called Overcoming the Taboo of Touch. And where that came from is that in my field of social work, psychotherapy, we're taught that we're not supposed to touch our clients because it could be perceived as boundary crossing, it could be traumatizing, transference, countertransference, all this psychological mumbo jumbo. So when I told Cesar about it, he says, okay, let's turn that on its head. And let's talk about ways that healthy touch by consent in a therapeutic setting could be beneficial. So that's some of what my talk is about, along with the hug mobster stuff. So I talked a little bit about that earlier, that Hug Mobsters Armed with Love, again, which Susan and Greg were a part of, was meant to offer free hugs by consent. So we went to 30th Street Station, and at noon on February 15th of 2014, we unleashed ourselves on the station, and we walked around with our free hug signs, and we asked people, would you like a hug? And out of, let's see, in that hour, we estimate we hugged about 200 people. It was remarkable. And one of the people that approached us and asked for a hug was an Iraq war vet. And he said he was the only one of his platoon that had survived, and he had survivor's guilt, and he had thought about killing himself. And he said, until I met you people, can I join you? So of course we gave him his little free hug sign, and he was off to the races. And my thought was, wow, hugs save lives. So I hadn't realized how prescient, how, what's the right word, ominous that was, because 5 months later, I had a heart attack at the age of 55. And as part of my cardiac rehab, I walked around Doylestown and I offered hugs. And I thought, why don't I do that more often? Because hugs are heart friendly, not just cardiac, but emotionally heart friendly, and it helps us connect with each other. So I've started doing it all around the country, in Canada, and then in 2018, I hugged my way across Ireland. That was a dream into reality experience. So think about, it doesn't have to be a big project, but something small, like what Brian was talking about, something that you feel like you were born to do. Does anybody have an experience like that? Like something that you can't not do? Like something you feel compelled to do?
That's how I felt about writing that book.
Okay. So the muse wouldn't let you sleep, huh? Until you wrote the book. Okay. And again, even if you're not comfortable sharing, write it down. What is it that I can't not do? What is it that I would do even if I didn't get paid for it? What was I put on this earth to do? That's part of manifesting as well. And attitude is everything. If you go into a project, a goal, a dream, thinking, well, maybe sort of, kind of, okay, unconditional love. So you were born to offer unconditional love. And that's something we can do anywhere, you know, with our families, with our friends, on our jobs, out on the street. And I know it's been challenging during the pandemic to smile, but to remind yourself, remind people, I'm smiling behind the mask. When I went into Wawa, I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago, there was a sign there that said that I'm smiling behind my mask. So yeah, you can offer unconditional love everywhere you go because it's free, it doesn't cost anything. Okay, so again, attitude is everything. It also helps to have what I call yay sayers, because plenty of people are, in our lives could be naysayers, like, oh, you can't do that. You're not smart enough. You're not rich enough. You're not thin enough. You've got these challenges in your life. Who's going to listen to you? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. Okay. I've been so blessed that I don't remember anybody ever telling me that I couldn't do what I set out to do. I was born into a family of yay sayers, so I'm grateful for that. Can you be your own yay sayer? Does anybody here have imposter syndrome? Do you know what that is? Okay. What's that?
I did not catch the word.
Imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, imposter syndrome is no matter how successful you are, no matter how good you are at what you do, there's still that little thought in your head that says, who are you to do this? People are going to discover that you're not all that in a bag of chips and you feel like an imposter. So that's what I was asking. Does anybody feel like an imposter sometimes?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, I'm relatively confident.
Good. Okay. Confidence. That's another factor. My mother used to say, walk in like you own the joint.
Right.
Held high, shoulders back, eye contact. My father used to say they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. So if you can walk into each day with those two things as your marching orders, walk in like you own the joint. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do, so that you're not intimidated by any challenge. I think those are two important things. There's a beautiful story that I heard. I'm going to read some of it to you about Marilyn Monroe. And I call it the Marilyn Monroe effect. Go back. Wrong one. Okay, hold on a sec. Okay. This is from Amy Green, who's the wife of Marilyn's personal photographer, Milton Green. I'll never forget the day Marilyn and I were walking around New York City, just having a stroll on a nice day. She loved New York because no one bothered her there like they did in Hollywood. So she could put on her plain Jane clothes and no one would notice her. She loved that. So we're walking down Broadway. She turns to me and says, "Want to see me become her?" I didn't know what she meant, but I said, yes. And then I saw it. I don't know how to explain what she did because it was so very subtle, but she turned something on within herself that was almost like magic. And suddenly cars were slowing and people were turning their heads and stopping to stare. They were recognizing that this was Marilyn Monroe, as if she pulled off a mask or something, even though a second ago, nobody noticed her. I'd never seen anything like that before. And as I said, I refer to that as the Marilyn Monroe effect. So are there times when you put your Marilyn Monroe on, regardless of your gender, but you put your Marilyn Monroe on instead of the internal, perhaps shy mask that you might be wearing?
Don't we all do that too, a little bit?
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I hope we recognize that. So what if you could go out into the world with your Marilyn Monroe on? Again, regardless of your gender. What would your life be like if you could embody her, that, you know, that glamour, you know, appeal?
It would be, I feel a lot more confident all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And here's a question for the group. Does confidence come before competence, or does competence come before confidence? Like, do you have to be good at something before you can be confident doing it? Or does your confidence make you better at it?
I think your confidence makes you good at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Even if you've never done it before, right? Like, think about the very first time you took a step. When you know, for any of us, when we were a child, it usually happens around 1, maybe. What do you think happened the first time you attempted to walk?
You weren't very good, and then the more you do it, you get better and better.
Right. And chances are we all fell on our butts, right?
Right.
And you don't think that as a baby, you're thinking, I'm so clumsy, I'm never going to be able to succeed, I'm going to scoot around on my butt the rest of my life. Somehow we all manage to move our bodies, right? Regardless of however we do that, whatever that looks like. And even if we have physical challenges, we still can do something, right? And think about that confidence of a child. And after the first few steps, then you're off and running and nothing's stopping you, right? So 2 other examples of celebrities that turned their the naysayers into yay-sayers in their lives. One is David Bowie. And a story that I heard, and again, don't know if it's an urban legend, but there was a time before he was famous that he wanted to be a rock star more than anything, but nobody was giving him a second glance. He wasn't getting auditions, or if he auditioned, he didn't get the job. So he decided to act as if he was already as famous as he wanted to be. So he would dress the part of a rock star. He would be seen with rock stars. He'd act, he'd carry himself as if. And it's not fake until you make it, because it wasn't fake. It was genuinely him, right? David Jones became David Bowie. And this is a performer who transformed himself so many times. He reinvented himself multiple times. And each one of us can do that too. You don't have to wait until a certain external thing happens to reinvent yourself. Oh, Stevie Nicks. Okay, I'll have to look that up. The other one was Muhammad Ali. And when he was first becoming a well-known boxer, he would kind of strut around. And do you remember what his tagline was besides float like a butterfly, sting like a bee? Do you remember what he used to say about himself?
He's the greatest of all time.
I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest, And the first time I heard that, I thought, God, how arrogant. And then I said, no, not arrogant, confident. Because if he had said, someday maybe kind of, sort of, I could be a halfway decent boxer, what do you think would have happened? Right? He would have been knocked on his butt a number of times and not gotten up. So I look at the 3 of them. Marilyn Monroe, who had her own share of mental health and addiction issues, her own self-esteem issues. She was not confident. That was a persona. Who else? Bruce Springsteen. I heard an interview that he did with Terry Gross on Fresh Air on NPR. And the thing that stuck out more than anything in this interview was something he said. He said, when I'm on stage, people look at me and say, I want to be that guy. And he said, you know what? Some days I want to be that guy, and I'm just not, because he's got his own issues as well. So think about the people in your life that come across as being really confident. Sometimes they're just not there. That's the imposter syndrome. That's the life getting lifey, all of those things. And I'm sure that there are people that that have overcome challenges to become household names. The other question when we get back to the imposter syndrome is, who me? Who am I to be, the Marianne Williamson quote, who am I to be fabulous, gorgeous, successful? And the question is, who are you not to be? Right? That each one of us came to Earth at this time to offer our gifts. And another thing that when we're talking about the TED Talk, another thing that I've done with that, where I am in the process, is that I worked with Caesar, I've created the talk, I've sent it out to about a dozen stages, and I keep sending out more to just keep pitching them. And I did something last week because I believe in symbolism. I don't know if any of you believe in doing rituals or having symbolic, metaphorical things. I got a red circular rug because when people stand on the TED stage, they're standing in a red circle in the middle of the stage. And a woman who is in a Facebook group, a TED Talk Facebook group, got one. And so I saw that she had done it, so I ordered it. So I have it in my living room over there. And every day I stand on it for at least a minute. And it's nice and soft and fluffy too. So I really like that. Has anybody here worked with vision boards? Yeah, you have? Okay. For those who haven't, a vision board is like a collage that you might have made when you were a kid. And it's a tool, it's a manifesting tool to help people focus on what it is they want. So you get a bunch of old magazines, and you can also, I know somebody's created them on the computer too. I'm not sure how to do that, but you cut out pictures and words that symbolize what it is you want. It doesn't have to be exactly that thing because our brains think in symbols, but create something you want. Again, whether it's a home, a job, a car, a vacation, an experience, a relationship, health, a purpose, whatever it is, and just have fun with it. And put it, after you're done with it, put it somewhere where you can see it. One area in my life where that worked as part of, we'll call it a magic spell, but part of another dream into reality experience. In 2008, I interviewed the Dalai Lama when he came to Philadelphia. And I had wanted to do it for 20 years. I had never, I didn't know how to get in touch with him, but the people that I talked to in my life said, yep, we know that someday you're going to be able to do this. We don't know how. And that's the whole thing with manifesting too. You may not know the how, you know the what, you know the why of it, like why you want to do it, but the how could unfold in ways that you would never have imagined. So I set the wheels in motion by putting it out there to the people in my life. I created vision boards with this picture in it. And then one day somebody said, why don't you cut out a picture of yourself and put it next to his picture, for proximity. And then in 2005, maybe, I had heard that he was speaking at Rutgers Stadium in New Brunswick. And I was asked to help promote it. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to. And by the way, is he granting interviews? And the organizers said, nope, not doing interviews, but you can come to the event. And what I did is I walked around the stadium, 20,000 people, carrying a tape recorder. And I interviewed people, asking them what he meant to them and why he was there. And I don't even remember where the article was published. But at the end of the day, they gave us this postcard with his picture on it. And I taped it to my dashboard of my Jeep. And so he was with me on the vision board. He was with me in my car. I still have the tattered version of the postcard in my current car. And then somebody suggested, why don't you write questions as if you're going to be interviewing him tomorrow? So I did that. Fast forward, and it's early 2008. And a friend of mine named Greg Schultz, who's an American-born Buddhist, is involved in the Tibetan rights movement, and he's got an in with His Holiness. And he said, we're bringing him into Philadelphia in July. Would you like to help promote it? And I said, sure. And by the way, no, he's not granting interviews. I said, okay, I'll do it anyway. And this is the part where Lisa Nichols was talking about being of service. I wanted to help. I wanted to get the word out. Yeah, I was disappointed that he told me I couldn't get the interview initially, but I just kept saying yes to the opportunities to be of service. So a couple months go by, and he says, I can't promise you, but it looks like it's possible, you know, fingers and toes crossed. And it was like the kids' game, like you're getting warmer, you're getting warmer. And he said, I've spoken to the organizers, and they made him the event producer. And he said, it's likely, but I'll let you know. So early July of 2008, I'm at the Exponential Music Festival, which is WXPN, you know, the radio station's music festival in Camden. And I'm standing there with two friends. One of them is a photographer, and my phone rings, and it's Greg. And he said, are you sitting down? And I said, should I be? He said, yep, you got the interview. And by the way, you're the only journalist in Philadelphia that he's granted an audience to. I screamed into the phone. My photographer friend snapped the picture, and he said, okay, I'm going to, I'll give you more details tomorrow. So the next day, Greg calls me back, and he said, you still have the interview, but they want the Philadelphia Inquirer involved too. So you don't think I said, nah, if I can't have an exclusive, I don't want it. I was still thrilled. So it was the experience of a lifetime. And if you want to see it, just look up Edie Weinstein, Dalai Lama interview. And there are a whole bunch of, it's been published a whole bunch of different places. And the reason I tell you that is, even though it took 20 years from seed planting thought to fruition, I never gave up, but I surrendered. Okay. Has that been challenging for people? Like, you have a dream, you do everything you can, and then you just got to surrender?
When I first started this company, I told my parents, like, I don't know how I'm going to get that, but I will. And I think I'm still in that progress, even though I'm still in kind of a rut right now.
Well, think about who your resources are. And this is for everybody. Whatever your dream is, who can support you in your dream? Who are the people that are the wind beneath your wings? Okay. Like, what contacts do you have?
Right.
Okay. If you want, Brian, you can get in touch with me, and we can talk about that.
Yeah. What's your email?
Email is B-Y-V-I-V-I-N-E. I'll put it in the chat. By Divine Design at Comcast.net. So it also, it helps to have people who have ideas. Do people have, it's okay, yeah, I'm gonna put it here. It also helps to have accountability partners. And those are people that keep you on task. If there's an idea you have, if there's something that you want to do, it helps to have people to keep you going, because there's a difference between an intention and a goal. Okay. Oh, thank you. There you go. So the way that I look at an intention is that that's the idea, that's the seed, that's the inspiration, whatever you want to call it. And it says, I'm not going to let you rest until you bring me to life. And then the goal is the steps. How do I get there? Who do I need to talk to? Who are my cheerleaders? Who else is doing what I want to do? And I'm going to learn from them. Okay, who are the people that can guide me? Okay, that's helpful too. And when you start to have doubts, who can you bounce them off of?
Right.
And it doesn't mean they're always going to be warm and fuzzy about it. They may kick your butt and say, no, you're not doing enough work. You gotta, you can't just let it slide. If you want something to happen, here are the steps to take. Like,
Right.
Phyllis, your book would never have gotten written if you didn't write it. Right? It didn't write itself. Okay. You did the legwork. So I think that's helpful. And I use the example of a garden what's the first step to planting a garden?
Planting the seed.
Okay. But even before you plant the seed, what do you need to do?
Decide what?
You have to decide what, right? You have to decide what you're growing. If you want to grow watermelons, you're not going to plant sunflower seeds, right? So you decide what you want in your garden. Then you have to pick the plot to plant them in. And if it's rocky and with broken glass, you're going to have to clear the decks, right? You're going to have to clear the space to do it. And then you cultivate the soil. You use a rake and you clear it all up. And you turn the soil around and you mix it all up. And it's not always pretty and clean. And then you plant the seeds and you kind of tamp them down. And then you water them, you feed them. Sometimes you got to fertilize them, right? So sometimes our dreams, it's fertilizer. Sometimes things happen that feel like fertilizer. So you put that on there and you don't go digging them up to see if they're growing. You gotta wait, right? So if you can wait, and then you also have to pull weeds because weeds can choke out flowers like they could choke out your dreams. So you have to do that. I call it weeding out discontent. And you can have people garden with you, or you can do it by yourself, but you don't have to. It's probably easier if you have gardening buddies, right? So if if you have a goal, run it past somebody and say, oh, what do you think? How do you think this would fly? Have you ever seen anything like this? When you write a book proposal and submit it to a publisher, they ask you to research what else is out there like you're doing. And so are there any programs out there like you want to create? What's unique about what you're doing and what's like what somebody else is doing. So that, that's helpful too.
Right.
But it does help to know what you want. The song, you can't get what you want till you know what you want. So it's kind of like that. And it doesn't just have to be one goal. Does anybody have multiple things going on at the same time in their lives that they're excited about? Okay. It's kind of hard, it's kind of hard when I'm not seeing faces or movement or anything, but I'm guessing that I'm not the only one that has multiple irons in the fire. So what inspires each of you to do what you do? Like what inspires you to keep living, to keep being go-givers in the world? Because it's a really challenging time to be living.
I think just to know that I've already been given a second life several times now, and knowing that every moment could be my last.
Wow. Okay. That's a really profound truth for you. Yeah. So how do you live as if each day could be your last? What do you do?
I just try to, obviously I think we all think about the future a little bit, but for the most part, I try my best to live in the now as much as possible.
Right. Okay. So that's a key, is living in the moment, not just living for the moment where people are being impulsive and not really caring about the outcome because what the heck, we're going to die anyway. It's not that. This is the only today I've got. What am I going to do with it? And sometimes doing nothing, sometimes vegging. I'm a workaholic. I literally worked myself into that heart attack in 2014. So sometimes my participation in the day means laying in bed. Sometimes it means just sitting out on the deck. It doesn't have to mean doing. And, since work is my addiction, That's really hard, but we are all still giving even when we're doing nothing, because we need to recharge our batteries. We need to push the reset button. That, that is essential, especially for people that are in a caregiving role, whether it's professionally or personally. If you're caring for a child, you're caring for an elder, as Verna said, she was a nurse. We're all giving out, and some of it involves taking in. It's that, that ebb and flow. So that's part of it too.
I think it was the Buddha that said you can't give what you can't have.
Mhm.
Like energy wise, at least that's what I take it as.
Yeah, absolutely. That whole airplane metaphor, put your own oxygen mask on first, because you can't help anybody else if you're passed out on the floor from oxygen deprivation.
Right.
You can't feed somebody from an empty bowl. You can't, all of those metaphors. So part of attracting what you want is being willing to ask for that help. Okay. Does anybody have a difficult time asking for support, asking for help with their dreams? Okay. Well, I used to. I don't anymore, because I know it's my pleasure to be able to help other people. I'm assuming it's their pleasure to help other people too. So I'm willing to give them the gift of helping me. Because that may mean to them that they've reached a certain level that I'm not quite at yet. That if they're doing something that I want to do, I'll ask them, how'd you do it? How'd you get there? What did it take for you to reach that level of success? So think about the people in your lives that are where you want to be or are doing brave, amazing things. One of the other TED Talks that I absolutely love, and if you haven't seen it, ties into this as well. Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, has a TED Talk on creativity. And she had just published this amazing novel, and she was in abject terror. How could I ever match that success? How could I ever do something as amazing as that? And she talked about the way creativity works, that back in, I forget what era she was talking about, creativity, the muse, the genius, it was called the genius, was like a person. And she said, she described that it's like Dobby, the house elf in the Harry Potter books, that it's this thing that moves in with you, that lives with you. And it inspires you. I call it the muse. And I say that the muse is like a persistent lover. It won't let me sleep until I do its bidding. So if there are creative ideas that come in, I have to act on them. So she talks about the importance of acting on your visions. And she told a story about Tom Waits. Do you know who Tom Waits is? Have you ever heard of him? He's a kind of a gravelly voiced musician. And he was driving down the LA freeway one day, and the muse came to him with a song idea. And he says, can't you see that I'm driving? Can't you see that I have nothing to write with? Either come back and visit me again with this beautiful idea, or go visit, who did he say? Leonard Cohen. And I don't know whether the song ever came to him. I don't know whether the muse visited Leonard Cohen, but that's, a brilliant metaphor for what we do when creativity comes our way, when the opportunity to be creative comes our way. And there was something else about that. Mel Robbins is another motivational speaker. And she, a number of years ago, was going through a deep depression, couldn't drag herself out of bed for nothing. And one night she was watching a rocket launch, like a newscast from many years ago of a rocket launch. And she noticed that they counted, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. And she said, okay, tomorrow morning, no matter how bad I feel, no matter how little I want to get out of bed, I'm going to count backward 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and launch myself out of bed. And she did. So she called it the 5-second rule. not the 5-second rule where you drop food on the floor and it's still edible, but the 5-second rule that says, if you have this inspiration to do something, act on it. Now, a positive thing, I'm not talking about impulsivity. I'm talking about spontaneity. So if you have an inspiration that tells you to do something, like start your own business, like write a book, like go back to school, like move to Japan, and it hits you that this is what I'm supposed to do, don't wait. Start doing the process to get yourself there, or it's just going to fade away. Just like like Tom Waits' conversation with the muse. So you can look that up too. Mel Robbins, Robbins, 5-second rule. And she did at one point have a talk show, and I don't know whether it's still on the air, but she does have YouTube videos that discuss that and discuss how to use the 5-second rule in your lives. The other thing is, once you have the idea, once you've reached a certain point, whether it's, again, publishing a book, creating a workshop, starting a business, learn to be shamelessly self-promoting. Okay, because the book, again, isn't doing anybody any good if they can't read it. And if they don't know about it, they can't read it. And if people don't know about a project, Brian, that you might be working on, they can't be involved in it. So there's nothing wrong with promoting yourself. My take on it is that one hand washes the other. I promote a lot of people's work just because I love what they do. If I believe in somebody, I'll be their most ardent cheerleader. Find your own cheerleaders, people that are going to amplify your message and boost you. The other thing is, when you start to get a little nervous about it, has that ever happened where you thought, uh-oh, this is exciting, but it's scaring the crap out of me? Has that ever happened for anybody?
I mean, well, I get a little bit nervous when I give meditations. That's probably normal.
When you do meditation, you said?
When I give them the guided ones, yeah.
Oh, when you give meditations. Is that because you're on stage or because people are listening to you?
Well, I'm doing them online only right now. And
Okay.
I've only done like 3 of them so far. So.
Okay. So do you just feel anxious, or do you feel exhilarated, excited, peaceful?
It's a little bit anxious. I think it's good. I guess I have to practice a little bit more being in front of everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, the more we practice, the better we get at it. Just like a toddler learning to walk,
right?
A baby learning to walk. And the more you practice it, the more it feels like it. Oh, of course, I know how to do this, right? I know how to be successful. And the other thing I encourage people to do is make a list of your successes. What have you already accomplished? At the ages that we all are, we've learned to eat, dress ourselves, bathe ourselves, walk, talk, in some cases, graduating from college, having a job, driving, riding a bike, what else? Traveling, paying our bills, all of those things are accomplishments that we don't even think about, because it just seems, we think it's supposed to come naturally. Then you can say, all right, if I did all of that, I can do this, right? And it doesn't mean you're not going to get scared. It doesn't mean you're not going to feel intimidated. I was talking to a musician friend, not long ago about anxiety doing public speaking. And she said, and it was because I've had difficulty, I have COPD, it was diagnosed in August. So it's hard to breathe sometimes. She said, breathe through your feet. She said, ground yourself when you're nervous, put your feet, like I'm barefoot right now, but put your feet on the ground and feel the energy of the earth coming up through your feet. So whenever you feel nervous about doing something, know that you've got the earth energy beneath you that's supporting you and grounding you. So I think that's something that's helpful too. The other idea that I like is see it, be it. You know how we're told you'll see it when you believe it. So you'll believe it when you see it. Wayne Dyer turned it on its head and said, you'll see it when you believe it. Right? So if you can see it, you can be it.
Isn't that manifesting in general?
Is that what?
Isn't that manifesting in general?
Yeah, manifesting in general, right? Okay, so we got 5 minutes, cool beans. So yeah, it is manifesting. And I like the term manna, M-A-N-N-A, festing, like manna from heaven. But that's, you can manifest anything. One of my favorite books on the subject is Illusions by Richard Bach. If you haven't read it, it's a classic. And a lot of that is about manifesting what you want. And it's not an instructional guide, it's a story. So as we're coming to a close, are there other particular questions that people have or comments they want to make about what we talked about?
I just want to say thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same without all of you here. So I appreciate your participation. Okay. So again, I'm available afterwards if people want to contact me. You put up my phone number and email and website. So we're good there. And I just wish you your heart's desires, and know that you are worthy of experiencing whatever abundance, bliss, joy, success that you want. Oh, another quick exercise on the way out. It's an exercise I do in the shower every day, where I rinse, before I soap up, I say I'm washing away anger, fear, worry, doubt, shame, all the yucky stuff that we all have accumulating because we're human. And I'm washing that away down the drain. And I'm washing in, I'm soaping in, love, support, kindness, abundance, grace, success, love, bliss, joy, all the good stuff that you want. So again, you're washing away the yucky stuff, you're washing in the good stuff. And that's a ritual that you can do every day. And you're not just going to feel clean physically, but you're going to feel clean emotionally and spiritually when you do that too. So I thank you all for your kind attention, for your presence today. And I offer you a big virtual hug until I can hug you in person. Mwah.